plans for signaling and for rescue operations. Popular conception of a tropic seacoast would probably look very much like this. This kind of coast is common, but there are other, less inviting coasts for which the survivor must be prepared. In some areas, mud flats cover long stretches of the coastline or are localized around the mouths of rivers. These sticky bogs are exposed at low tide and may be as much as a mile wide in some places. Travel over them is virtually impossible. They may be fringed with mangroves near the shoreline. Mangrove forests are common along tropical seacoasts, particularly where fresh water empties into the sea, and they often extend inland for several miles along the watercourse. They present an almost impenetrable tangle of roots and mud, suitable only for the insects, stingrays, and crocodiles that inhabit them. Rocky beaches and precipitous cliffs offer another barrier or hurdle to the survivor approaching from the sea. As with mangroves and mud flats, these frequently can be circumnavigated and a landing made on a more favorable beach. Breaks in lines of cliffs are common, and sheltered coves may lie back of any rocky point that juts into the sea. Any tropic seacoast survival venture might involve any one or all of these landforms. Each has potential hazards that must be overcome, and each has distinctive resources that can be exploited. The purpose of this film is to demonstrate how your knowledge of basic survival techniques can be used to best advantage under any and all tropic seacoast emergencies. If you bail out over the interior, go for the seacoast, where survival, signaling, and rescue possibilities are much better. Your travel plan should be the standard survival journey. Follow creeks and rivers downstream. When they become navigable, inflate your dinghy or build a raft and continue by water. If you bail out at sea, try to get to an island or the mainland. In approaching any landfall, you should be prepared for the possibility of encountering coral a short distance offshore. Coral in the form of reefs may appear above the water or may be entirely subsurface. Coral that can cut you and your equipment to shreds. If you encounter a coral reef during your approach, you will probably lose your raft and be forced to swim or wade the rest of the way to the beach. When you finally make it to a seacoast, the land around you may be lonely, ominous, desolate, bleak, foreboding. But don't let it get you down. You've got to think, got to make a plan. Check your equipment: a knife, life vest, matches, and your boots and flying suit. Sure, it would be better if you had your raft and survival kit, or even, but you can make it with what you have. That's right. Better take care of that coral cut. Infections develop rapidly in the tropics. Wash and bandage all cuts carefully. If you have no antiseptic to clean the wound, use salt water. Based on the experiences of those who have successfully survived a tropic seacoast emergency, you are likely to be on your own for several days before rescue. Now, how about rescue? Rescue services are looking for you, and you do everything you can to help them find you. If a search plane makes a pass down your beach, you'll want him to spot you. Select a wide open stretch of beach close to your campsite for a big SOS. Keep your signal mirror handy and make sure you know how to use it. Then, with a signal fire ready with piles of grass that can be thrown into the fire to provide the smoke you'll need for an effective daylight signal, you're ready for whoever comes by. You'll need shelter, water, and food. It rains a great deal in the tropics, but when it's not raining, a burning sun will force you to spend most of the time under shade of some sort. Select a campsite well away from low, swampy places. Even then, an offshore breeze may bring mosquitoes in such droves that sleep at night will be impossible. If such is the case, you should get as much sleep as possible during the day and stay close to a smudge fire at night. There are any number of suitable shelters that you can build with native materials. A sand trench can be covered with driftwood and vegetation, found even on a desert island. A lean-to such as this one makes an ideal temporary shelter. It affords protection from sun and rain and is open enough for breezes to flow through. A platform or elevated bed that will keep you off the ground is well worth the time it takes to build. Not only will it be drier and more comfortable than a surface bed, but it will keep you away from sand fleas and other crawling pests. Now, how about food and water? No matter what kind of a beach you're on, you can find good drinking water, but you may have to work for it. If you're in a rock or cliffed area, look for a nearby spring or stream, or for water trapped in the hollows of rocks. Finding an adequate water supply should pose no problem. But where do you find drinking water on a beach such as this? From all outward appearances, it looks as dry as a desert. But chances are that a beach well, dug in back of the pressure ridge or line of sand dunes, will produce fresh water. Select the lowest depression behind the pressure ridge. Generally, it will be marked by greener vegetation and by drainage debris left behind by water that once collected there. Now, dig. Dig until the sand becomes soggy and water seeps into the bottom of the hole. Scoop it out and drink. Although the beach well may be your best water supply and on some beaches your only water source, the beach may not have a pressure ridge or the water table may be too deep, in which case you'll have to find your water elsewhere. Most tropical beaches are fringed with dense vegetation, and here you'll find some plants that contain potable water. If the liquid is not sticky, milky, or bitter, you can drink it. The bromeliad or air plants frequently hold rainwater. If the water contains insects or debris, strain it through a cloth before drinking it. You can often find water in the joints of old bamboo. It is simply rainwater that has seeped into the joint and been trapped there. As long as you have located a source of bamboo, you might as well take some of the larger green sections with you. They make excellent containers and cooking utensils. Your next prerequisite for survival is food, enough to keep you physically and mentally fit. While some tropic seacoasts offer a great variety of food, all tropic seacoasts, even the most barren, will have some food. There are thousands of species of shellfish, and almost all of them are edible. Look for them at low tide. You'll find limpets, chitons, snails, and snails. And along the edge of the water at low tide, clams. On rocks near the surf and on mangrove roots, oysters. A word of caution here. Unless you know how, don't try to open live oysters and clams. You may cut your hands. Crack them with a rock or cook them, and they open by themselves. There are only two types of shellfish that are dangerous to handle. The cone and terebrous snails that look like this and have a sting that's as dangerous as the bite of a poisonous snake. Never pass up a tidal pool. They are little reservoirs of marine life. You may find that the receding tide has left crabs, even fish, behind in a pool such as this. For hunting in a tidal pool or shallow water of any sort, two tools in particular will be most helpful. A spear of bamboo with barbed tines whittled into one end, and spread points fashioned on the other end for holding. The second tool is a dip net. In this case, the net is made from an undershirt. If you have your chute with you, you can make it of parachute cloth, punching small holes about an inch apart for drainage. A dip net is the best means of catching small, elusive crabs and fish that are trapped in a tidal pool. But these may not be the only inhabitants of the pool. Look closely. A sea urchin. Inside are 5 small egg masses that are truly an epicure's delight. But look out for the spines. They break off easily and could cause a mean, infectious wound. Also, some sea urchins have spines that are mildly poisonous. But other forms of marine life may be found in such pools. This is a sea cucumber. Inside are long strips of muscle that will add flavor to your seafood chowder. A word of caution. The vicious moray eel is sometimes found in tidal pools. There's good crabbing along almost any seacoast. You'll need your dip net and a line of some sort, any sort. For example, even a long, thin vine might do it. Tie a piece of dead or half-rotted fish or meat to the end of your line and throw it out. When you feel it move slightly, pull it in slowly, evenly. The crab will hold greedily to the bait until it comes to the surface. Now the dip net. A quick scoop and there's your crab. All crabs are good eating. All sea crabs and land crabs. Big crabs or little crabs. If you're one of those airmen who carries a set of fish hooks and a strong line on every flight, you'll find good fishing off of most tropic seacoasts. Don't get cut or jabbed by sharp spines, fins, gill plates, or teeth. But supposing you don't have modern tackle. If you have your parachute shroud lines, thin wire or stout line of any sort, you can catch fish with a gorge. A gorge is only a small double-pointed sliver of wood with the line secured to it near the center. Stick the gorge well into the bait. The fish will swallow it easily enough, but when you pull it, it opens out and jams in the fish's throat. Spiny sea life, and wear your shoes. As a matter of fact, wear your shoes wherever you go. Protect your feet from rock bruises, coral cuts, from nettles, thorns, and stinging insects. There are many kinds of edible plant foods in the tropics, but there are a few poisonous varieties too. Use the taste test on everything you can't positively identify. If it tastes all right, eat only a small portion and then wait till next day to make sure no ill effects develop. Then you can safely eat larger amounts. A taste of poisonous fruit won't hurt you. For example, here's something that looks like a crab apple. Smells good and it tastes like fire and brimstone. It's manzanilla, the deadly beach apple. Take care. Do not get the sap in your eyes or on your skin. But here's something else. What is it? Maybe you know what this is, but supposing you don't, take a good look at it. It's a fruit of some sort, but it's green. Smell it. Taste it. Not bad. Since it's green, you'll have to cook it before you try a small amount. If you're willing to look and experiment, you'll find many foods. There are roots and tubers and leafy vegetables. For example, this small coconut palm, like most palms, has an edible heart. But to get at it requires know-how and effort. Start by removing the leaves just above the hard trunk. Peel off the leaves by cutting and pulling one at a time until you reach the glistening white center. This crisp palm heart is delicious, raw or cooked. Cyclanthus, a plant with a palm-like leaf, has an edible shoot. And beach crests are common in the tropics. In marshy areas around lagoons or in back of beaches, you may find cattail. The flowers, young leaves, and particularly the tuberous roots are edible when cooked. You'll find a variety of nuts. Tender shoots you can cook and eat as if they were asparagus. Fern fronds and leaves that you might cook and eat as if they were spinach. And fruits of many kinds. Always keep on the lookout for coconut palms. If you find a grove of them, you've struck it rich. In any coconut grove, you'll find mature nuts that have dropped to the ground. Those ground nuts are hard to open, and the milk inside them is somewhat laxative, but the meat will be tasty and nourishing. There's only one good tool available to you for ripping off the tough, fibrous husk of a coconut, the husking stake. This is simply a hardwood stake driven solidly into the ground at a slight angle and sharpened flatly on the top end. Keeping your fingers well away from the point of contact, bang the coconut against the end of the stake and pry off the husk. Crack the husked nut around the middle until you can break it open. You can grate the meat and eat it raw or cooked. Natives throughout the tropics use coconut oil for cooking and to protect their bodies from exposure. The slow but easy way to get coconut oil is to let the grated meat stand in the sun for a few days. The oil will rise to the top. The quick way is to add a little water. Boil it in a section of bamboo, and when it cools, skim the oil off the top. There's a later stage in the development of a coconut you mustn't overlook. That's the germinating nut. Snap off the green shoot, peel it, and cook it as a vegetable. When you've broken it open, you'll find the nutshell filled with delicious, spongy meat. This delicate meat is just as good cooked. It's the green nuts, however, that have the cool, clear milk. And on some tropic seacoast, they may be your primary source of drinking water. Your only problem is how to get them. First, look for a dwarfed palm, or one that has been blown partly over. The nuts may be low enough for you to impale them on a long forked pole. A few rotations of the pole and the nut will come free. If at any time the coconuts are too high to reach with a pole, try to get them some other way, any way but climbing the tree. Climbing a coconut palm is about as difficult and dangerous a thing as you can do. Besides the difficulty of climbing, the crown of the tree may be infested with stinging insects. Or maybe you can get them with a makeshift ladder. Climb it only as a last resort. Naturally, you want to select the smallest tree you can find that has a good supply of nuts, because a bad fall could end your survival adventure right here. You won't need a husking stake for a green coconut. Your knife will do. Cut away the husk on the pointed end, taking care not to puncture the soft shell of the nut. Hold the nut upright and slice off the tip. Take unopened green coconuts back to your camp and you'll have drinking water whenever you want it. And don't forget, the thin, slick layer of meat in a green coconut is a delicacy. In your search for food, keep a sharp lookout for land animals. All animals. Snakes, turtles, and lizards are good eating. Always keep your eyes open for young birds and eggs. Seabirds roost and nest in rocky areas, in trees, and on sand spits. Seabirds may be an important food source in some areas. You may be able to stone them, snare them, or catch them on a baited hook and line. Among the physical hazards you will constantly be subjected to are sunburn, sunstroke, and insects. Keep your body covered. When in the sun, always wear a hat of some sort. Try to keep cool and stay in the shade during the middle of the day. Finally, there are 3 important tips for good health. First, if you get your drinking water from a stream or a lake, boil it for 3 minutes before drinking. Second, if you have plenty of fresh drinking water, add some salt to your diet by boiling some of your food in salt water. And third, don't take a chance on spoiled food. Eat it raw or cooked, but eat only freshly caught or preserved seafood. Never keep seafood that has not been smoked or dried. If you practice the proven survival procedures and guard against taking unnecessary chances, then your survival experience will be pleasant and successful. After all, Thousands of people live happily and successfully along seacoasts. But an uninhabited tropic seacoast rarely will be the paradise it's supposed to be. If you know basic survival practices, however, you will survive better on a tropic seacoast than you will on most any other kind of terrain. But never forget that survival under the best conditions is always a matter of your persistence, intelligence, training, and courage.